we get started on this week's video message, I just wanted to remind you about my channel. I have different playlists. So a lot of times I get people who just want to follow our family vlog, and then other times I get people who just want to follow the Happy Lady videos. So what I suggest to you is if you just go up in the menu on my channel under playlists, if you're a fan of the family vlog, you can click on Around the House and it will show you in order of all the episodes from the earliest episode up until now. And then same with these Happy Lady videos. If you just click on Happy Lady, then you'll get all of these videos in order from the very first video I made a few years ago up until now. So they're in order because a lot of times I get people who will say, how many videos have you made and what topics do you have, or can you point me to this or that? Or there's people who want to find out how they can watch more videos. Well, that's how you do it. Just click on the playlist. The videos are all in order from the earliest video up until now. It's kind of best if you watch it that way because a lot of times in these videos, I'll repeat things from the video before. And so if you haven't seen the prior videos before, you might not know what I'm talking about. You might be a little bit confused. So I recommend that you go back from the earliest ones and just watch them in order that way, other than watching them sporadically because then they're not really going to make sense. They kind of flow together. It's like one long novel that never ends. Each video from week to week just goes right into the next video. Anyways, just wanted to share that with you. Also, I've had some people ask me about transcribing. I have a couple of you out there who have been trying to work on transcribing these videos. I know it's not easy, but if there's anybody out there who wants to help or who has access to a fast program that makes it a lot easier to do, please contact me and I will put you in touch with a couple of people out there who've been trying to do this. So far we haven't had any completed videos transcribed because I know it's a lot of work. But I know that there's also a lot of you who keep asking, how can I get text? How can I get your videos in a text format? And that's the only way to do it is through transcribing. And a lot of these videos are over 2 hours long. So that's a lot of text. That's a lot of transcribing. But if you're interested in helping out or you have ideas or connections, please feel free to reach out to me. I will put you in touch with the two others out there who are trying to work on this. Besides that, if you reach out to me and ask me questions about which videos reference which certain topics or a quote I may have said, which video it might be in, I have no way of remembering that. I'm so sorry. I really don't. I've tried. I've had people reach out to me saying, you know, I remember you talking about this certain experience, but I can't remember what video it's in and I want to show it to someone. So I myself have had to go back and watch several videos until I find it, and then I have to mark where it's at in the video and then send it to the people who are requesting that, and it's a lot of time and a lot of work. So we're really hoping that soon we can get these videos transcribed, and that way it's so much easier just to do a keyword search to be able to find these quotes and experiences and stories that we all want to share. So if you're able to help with that, let me know. And thanks to those of you out there who are trying to work on this because I know it's not easy. Okay, before we get into this week's video message, I just have an announcement I wanted to share. So Shawn Littlebear is hosting an 8-week online live course. And I registered, I signed up for it. I'm super excited and I just wanted to put it out there for you because I know a lot of you love Shawn Littlebear and can't get enough of him and want to find out how you can get in touch with him and learn more from him. Well, this is the way to do that. So not only are these classes live every Saturday morning, so you can actually go in and type questions at the end of each class and he'll answer them. So there's a Q&A at the end. That's a great way to get in touch with him and ask him the questions you've been wanting to ask. And then another great thing about this course is if you can't make it every Saturday morning because, you know, it's summer, we're busy, right? You can watch the classes again later at your convenience. So it's totally worth it to sign up. And I'm going to share with you some of the topics that he's going to be covering. Reading scriptures and discerning their meaning. Fasting and accessing its power. That's something I'm even going to talk about in today's video, and I know it's something we talk about a lot in these videos. Time and timelines on the earth and throughout biblical history, and changing yourself. So those are just some of the topics he's going to be covering, and the course begins June 16th and goes for 8 weeks. The cost is $80, and I have a link down below in this video description if you want to sign up for it. Just go ahead and click on that and it'll take you right to it. So I'm friends with Nancy at preparingapeople.com, and I told her I would totally put a plug in for this class because I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. So you can guarantee that I'll be sharing the little tidbits of awesomeness from his classes in these videos. So even if you can't make them, just know that I'll be sharing what I take away from it here in these videos. Okay, so speaking of Shawn Littlebear, we're just gonna slowly get right into this. And a lot of times I save the best things for last, but I'm actually gonna start this week's video with something very, very big at the very beginning of the video. You're welcome. But trust me, there's still a lot of amazing stuff I'm gonna share at the end, but it's just the way that it flows. I just have to share this at the beginning. One of my awesome listeners emailed me a link to a recording that she had made of a class she attended last year with Shawn Littlebear. And so she recorded on her phone his entire presentation, and she sent that to me and I was able to listen to it, and it was amazing. And there were 2 speakers. Now I just want to point out that this was right after I had recorded the last video message. So I hadn't done the editing yet. I had only made the recording the day before. And what was so awesome about this is, you know, last week's video message was all about the power of music. I talked about salt, among other things, and all of these same themes were in this recording from December of 2017. So he mentioned salt, and then Shawn Littlebear talked about David and talked about the music that he played. Now remember, I talked about Psalms and I talked about music and the power of, and so I just felt like, wow, it's amazing how the Lord works. It's amazing how we see these patterns of themes that we learn about and that we share. So it was another awesome witness for me. But something that he said that really stood out to me, this is really big, you guys. I'm so excited to share this. He was talking about the Cheyenne calendar, and he said that right now, so he's saying this in December of last year. So he said that right now, at that point in time, the Cheyenne calendar is in the year 5,979. Now he said it's a little bit different than the Hebrew calendar, but that their calendar is most correct and most accurate from what it was the Lord had taught them and what he needed them to do, this work that he has saved for their people in these last days. And so he said that when the calendar reaches the year 6,000, which is only 19 years away, that is when the millennium reign begins. Okay. So, now I don't know if you're feeling it, I'm feeling it, and I was feeling it when I heard it. That is absolutely incredible to hear. To help emphasize the importance of that, Shawn went on to talk about, you know, look, so this just gives us a timeline. If we know that the millennial reign will begin in the year 6,000, then we know that during these next 19 years, we're going to experience tribulation, we're going to experience cleansing, we're going to experience all the things that we need to do to get our hearts ready for the Savior to return, to prepare this earth for the Savior to return. This is the window, this is the small window of time that we have left to do these things in. And that was profound for me. I've always felt that things are getting closer and closer. And of course, as more and more signs are fulfilled and more prophecies are fulfilled, it just narrows down that window for us. And it kind of helps you put your priorities in place. Now, I had mentioned in a previous video this year when I was talking about super blue blood moons and how rare they are, and how this year, in the year 2018, not only did we have one in January, but we had one in March. So at the end of January and at the end of March, which is what made it a super blue moon, because it happened more than once in a year, which is rare. And I remember I was reading a news article at the time, and I thought, can they predict when the next one will happen? And later on in that article, and in fact I have a link to this down below, but later in that article they said this won't happen again until the year 2037. And I remember that hit me, and I thought, something significant is going to happen in the year 2037, and this is the beginning of it. This is the beginning of it in the year 2018. 2018 marks the beginning of something very awesome, and then we see that fulfilled in the year 2037, and I felt that, and I know I shared this in a video. I shared the significance of that year and that we have something to watch for. We have something to keep our eye on. Now remember, I've talked all about it this year, that 2018 is the year of gateways and openings and breakthroughs and shifting to higher levels. We talked about the number 8 and 8 being the gate. Well, there you have it. 2018 was the year of the super blue blood moon. So we have that opening up the gate, leading us to what will unfold in the year 2037. So now get this. What year will it be on our calendar when it's the year 6000 on the Cheyenne calendar? That occurs between the year 2037 and 2038. So he went on to talk about later in that video, look for the signs in the heavens. Look for the signs in the skies and in the stars. Keep looking there, keep your eyes up. He didn't mention the super blue blood moon, but that came to mind immediately when I heard him say that. Okay, so then I had talked about last year in some of my videos when I mentioned his name is a little bit difficult to pronounce. Sadhu Sundar Selvaraj. He's from India, and I just call him the Indian prophet. He's a Christian from India, and occasionally he gets invited over here to speak at different conferences. And last year he had come and he spoke around August, I believe. He was speaking to Christians in America, and he gave some pretty incredible prophetic word and some warnings. And I believe that I shared in one of my videos that he said that those of you who have toddlers, your toddlers will not reach the age of their teenage years before the Lord returns. That's how soon it is. Now, of course, he doesn't give a date on that, but it's just to give us a timeline. I remember looking at my son thinking, oh my goodness, you're 3 years old right now, and you're not even going to be 13 before the Lord returns. And we know that the Lord needs to return and take care of business down here before that millennium reign can be ushered in. So this is all fitting together. This is all piecing together quite well. It's making a lot of sense. Anyways, at that conference last year, he was talking about the eclipse, and I had done an entire blog post that went viral talking about this eclipse, and I did a small video on it as well on my channel. I remember he was talking about the election of President Trump, and he said, you have 7 good years. So if you go 7 years out from that, that's the year 2024. And he said, the Lord has given you a grace period of 7 good years. You're going to be prosperous. You're going to receive blessings. It's going to be wonderful. And so do all that you can during these 7 good years to help build the kingdom and get yourself to a good place. This always reminds me of Joseph of Egypt, and how they had 7 years of harvest and 7 years of gathering in and preparing, and then after that came the 7 years of famine, but because they were prepared, everybody came to them. The rest of those nations came to Egypt to get food. And I kind of see it that way for this nation, that we have 7 years to gather in, to prepare, to get our house in order. And then after that, as things take a shift, we'll see the rest of the world gathering in for those things that they need. And it's interesting because I had also mentioned Mark Taylor in a previous video, and he was talking about oil, and he said that the oil wells in Saudi Arabia are drying up. All throughout the Middle East, the oil wells are drying up, and those countries are starting to panic. They're running out of money. But over here, President Trump is preparing for new oil wells to start over here in Alaska. I've heard of a pipeline going up through Canada. He had mentioned that the tables will turn and the nations will be coming to us for oil and for the things that they need. It reminded me of that. It reminded me of Joseph of Egypt. I'm kind of jumping around here from my notes. Kind of jumping around, I'm jumping ahead, but I know I've mentioned before a man by the name of Perry Stone, who is a minister, And I heard an interview with him on the Jim Baker show, and he was talking about a friend of his who had just returned from Saudi Arabia and said they have 4 years left of oil and that it is out. They're completely out. So they're making a lot of changes over there, and they're doing things differently, trying to prepare for when this happens. So back to Shawn Littlebear, he started talking about the tribulation, and he said it's actually happening right now. And he compared it to the analogy of standing in a forest and saying, oh, well, where's the forest? And you can't see the forest because you're in it. The trees are surrounding you. So all you see is the trees that are around you. You don't see the entire forest. And so he was saying that that's what it's like right now for us. We are in it. We are living in it right now. And he said that the tribulation right now is happening on an individual level. And he said if there's people out there, if you feel like you're doing everything right in your life, you're going to the temple, you're keeping your covenants, you're paying your tithing, you're doing service, but you're still having these crazy trials in your life and these overwhelming challenges, and you're thinking, why? He said that the Lord is preparing you to be a helper. You will have to go through the tribulation first to be a helper for the greater tribulation that is coming later. So he is getting our hearts right. He's getting our hearts where he needs them to be. And so don't be angry, don't be frustrated, don't be fearful. If you have crazy things going on in your life and it feels like everything is chaotic and out of control, just know that the Lord has a plan for you right now, that there is a purpose in this. And it has great benefit for you in the near future. Shawn was talking about that many out there, their hearts are being cleansed right now as we speak through these personal trials in their lives. And once they come out cleansed and they come out refined, then the Lord can use them for the greater tribulation that's coming, because their hearts are already going to be committed to him. And he's going to be able to use them in monumental ways. I like to look at this as the 11th hour workers. That's all of you guys. You have a great role in these last days. Many of us have been called, but who is choosing to be chosen? So the time is now. The time is now to set aside all your fears, to put aside all your doubts, and just go forth. Just go forth with faith and do what it is the Lord is asking you to do. And focus on your healing right now. If you have issues right now that need to be taken care of, if there's people in your life that you have ill feelings towards, or situations and experiences from the past that whenever you think about these people or places, you get an ill feeling in your stomach, or you think, oh, that tells you right there, those are your red flags that you still have things that you need to deal with. You need to cleanse that inner vessel, get all of those feelings of hatred, annoyance, frustration, offense, hurt, get it all out of you, because you need to be cleansed so that the Lord can use you. So I've been doing that myself. I've been taking an inventory every week of feelings. If I think about memories from the past and I think, oh, when I think about that, I just, don't like it, don't like thinking about those people or that situation, then I know there's things in me that still need to be released. I need to let go. So I write all of it down and I go through the techniques that I've shared in past videos of how to take care of that and how to heal that with the Lord. But the one big thing that I also took away from that video, and it was from the speaker prior to Shawn, is he talked about faith, and he says it's actually made of matter. Faith is made of matter. It's tangible, and it puts off a frequency, and that frequency is a language. And so when you can speak the right frequencies to a mountain and say, move, the mountain's not necessarily responding to your words or your voice, but it's the frequency that's coming from your heart. It's the frequency of that faith. It will respond to that frequency. So he was talking about the reason we need to heal our hearts is so that we can always be in the right frequency where we can make major miracles happen, because we're putting off that frequency that the rest of matter responds to. That's a mystery right there. That's a mystery of the laws of the universe and how whenever the Savior speaks, it is done. He knows that frequency. He operates in that frequency. It's a frequency of love that comes from the heart. Okay, now in regards to last week's video, there was a part in there where I made comparisons between 3 people. I talked about the King of Wakanda from the movie and comic Black Panther. Then I talked about the royal wedding, and then I talked about Janet Jackson and how many reference her as the Queen of Pop. And I made this connection after I published the video on YouTube, so you'll see I put a comment down there below. But I made this connection of royalty. You have the King of Wakanda, you have the royal wedding, the prince, you have the Queen of Pop, so you have this connection of royalty. I was actually talking about that message of unity I had picked up on between those 3 connections. But here's what I wrote after I made the connection of royalty. I heard in my mind, I have prepared a crown for you. There are scriptures that reference that. And when the Lord tells us that he has prepared a crown for us, well, what does that mean? That means royalty, a crown. We are given a kingdom. We are princes and princesses, kings and queens, and we will have kingdoms. And he has prepared a crown for us, which means he is giving us a place in his kingdom to rule and reign with him. So the message that I heard in my mind was, be passionate, love, cultivate unity, keep the peace, and you will rule and reign with me. So I just wanted to share that with you. So moving on from unity, you know that we had the B1 celebration. There was a B1 celebration at the conference center in Salt Lake. I watched that from my computer at home, and if you follow me on my blog, then you know how excited I was and how awesome it was. And I was touched in so many ways, on so many levels, that I couldn't keep it together. I just cried throughout the whole thing pretty much. And it was just awesome. And at one point, I saw in my mind this vision of all the tribes coming together during the millennium when the Lord is reigning on the earth, and each tribe putting on a performance for the Savior and putting on a presentation of a celebration of their people. And I saw each of the tribes coming out and telling the story of their tribe and their history and their people, and just putting on this beautiful performance of song and dance and story, just like at that B1 celebration, and sharing all the hardships and struggles that they went through to get where they are now. I just saw us all coming together and being a part of this, and it was so awesome. And then I saw something similar in my mind happening in the throne room, and God the Father sitting on the throne watching these celebrations from each of the tribes, and it was just really cool, and I was just so overwhelmed by the Spirit. Something I really loved about that celebration was that was the first time I am aware of, that I've ever seen, a gospel choir made up of Mormon brothers and sisters clapping and dancing and shouting and singing in the very spot where the Tabernacle Choir sings and performs at General Conference every year. So I never thought I would ever see anything like that. It was so awesome, and just that energy that that choir had. And then if you saw the audience, there were people in the audience as the camera panned to the audience. There were people standing up and shouting and praising and singing along and clapping, and everybody was moving. And it just again reminded me of Psalms and David, how he worshiped the Lord through song and dance, and how when you can find ways to use your whole body to express praise and worship for the Lord, I believe amazing things happen in the spiritual realm. And so you could just feel it. It was just full of energy. That place was alive. You had the band playing the music, and Gladys night was amazing. It was amazing. And I thought, I really would like to see more of this at General Conference. That would be so cool. Anyways, I loved it, and it reminded me of this Honoring America tour that I was talking about, and the churches coming together and uniting and coming together on the things that we have in common, and just worshiping and praising the Lord together, and setting our doctrines aside and just worshiping together and building those bonds of unity and love. And that's what that felt like to me. So I loved it. Something I noticed, I don't know that anybody else noticed this, but it was so significant to me I had to keep stopping the video and going back and watching it and watching it. But if you go to 7 minutes and 14 seconds into the video, now I have the link below if you want to click on the link and check this out. There is a sister who's saying the opening prayer. And in the prayer, right when she says the words, be one, she pauses and there is a loud sound like an explosion. And then you see the prophet, you see President Nelson, he's folding his arms, he's bowing his head, and his whole body just jolts, it just jerks. And it was like a surge of electricity. And so you hear her say, be one, you hear this loud explosion, and then you see the prophet jolt. And I just thought, whoa, there is something to that. And I watched it over and over again, and it was profound for me. I felt that there was witness in that for me. There was witness in that of how significant the celebration is and how it really does foreshadow the bright future that we have of the millennium. Then someone in our 11th hour worker group wrote something that I thought was also pretty significant. This was something she picked up on. She wrote, be one on June 1st. So you have be one on June 1st. Then you have June 3rd, which was a message to the youth to claim power as an army of God, and 11th hour workers. So you have B1 on June 1st, so there's your 1-1, and then on June 3rd, you had that follow-up message from the prophet. So there it was, 113. She picked up on that. That was pretty neat. I love that we get to hear so much from President Nelson lately. I feel like he's everywhere. He's all over the place. He's so actively involved with the people, and he's getting to know them on a personal level, and he's loving it. And I loved when he spoke to the youth the other night. And I loved what Sister Nelson said when she talked about remembering who we were before we came here. What was so neat about that for me is that is actually something I had prayed about just days before. I had prayed to the Lord, and I had just said one day, I was sitting in this very office, and I just said, you know, I would love to be able to see just for a little bit who I was before I came here. Just a little bit. And I don't have to see it today, I don't have to see it now, but if that's your will for me to be able to see that and know that and remember that, I just feel it would do wonders for my soul. Wonders for me in my life in so many ways. I kind of feel, I have a little bit of a feel for who I was before I came here, and I do have some clues in my patriarchal blessing. But I just thought how awesome that would be just to be able to see just a little piece of that. And then she went and talked about that, and I thought that was incredible. You know, everything about Sister Nelson's and President Nelson's talks were all about ramping up an army and getting that army ready for what's to come. Something else I wanted to share with you is that shortly after making the last video message, I don't remember which Sunday it was, but my husband saw on Facebook that one of his friends who lives in Syracuse, which is just the city west of us, had posted on Facebook that President Nelson did a surprise visit to his ward. And he said they were just sitting there in Sacrament, and all of a sudden in walks, unexpectedly, the prophet. And they all just kind of sat up and thought, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And after Sacrament meeting was over, they got to meet him and take pictures with him, and he delivered a message for them. And I thought, how cool is that? That the prophet just randomly shows up at Sacrament meetings, and he gets to know the people, and he delivers personal messages to wards. I mean, that's so close to me to know that he was just in my area and I had no idea. And I thought that is another reason why we want to be prepared in all things. I heard in my mind, have your oil lamps trimmed. You never know when the prophet's going to show up. You don't want to miss church. That's just another reason right there not to miss church. Think about all the people that day who decided to stay home and then found out that the prophet was there in Sacrament meeting. They were probably just kicking themselves. So, you know, just a reminder to always have your lamps trimmed. Always be prepared. Always be ready. You never know when the prophet is going to show up. You never know when the Lord is going to show up. And I don't just mean the overall grand second coming of the Lord, but I mean a personal visitation of the Lord. And here's one of my favorite scriptures below if you want to check it out that talks all about this. A friend of mine reached out to me and she said, you know what I really love about President Nelson? She said, I love that he is 92 years old and he looks and acts so much younger than his age. She says, I feel like he's going to give hope to all the elderly people out there who have kind of given up, who are kind of at a place where they feel like, well, I'm in my 90s, I'm in my late 80s, and so there's not much that I can do. The Lord doesn't have much use for me. I'm just old and I'm frail. My health is failing. And she said, I really believe that President Nelson is going to give the elderly new hope and new life. See, I believe that the Lord doesn't just have a work for young people to do, not just the missionaries and not just the mission presidents. I believe that he can use us all. And we're never too old to stop doing the work. We're never too old for him to use us. And I believe if our hearts are really in it and we really want to serve him and we really want to be powerful in his kingdom, we're going to experience amazing miracles. Our health is going to turn around. We're going to be healed. We're going to experience all kinds of radical changes physically and spiritually and emotionally to get us into a position where we can be powerful in his kingdom. And so anyways, I really just loved the message that the prophet delivered to the youth because it was all about personal revelation. And that is everything I'm studying right now. It just happens to be the books that are falling into my life and the scriptures that are falling open on my lap. Everything seems to be centered around personal revelation. There's a real heavy theme to that right now. And it's something that the prophet is also feeling the need to share, is that we have to get familiar with personal revelation. We have to get familiar with how the Spirit speaks to us. We have to be able to listen, to tune out the noise, to be able to hear those messages. Okay, so now I want to talk about turning off the noise. Back to the Indian prophet. One of his videos showed up one day in my feed, and as you can see right here, I took a screenshot. The number 113 was on the video. So I watched it. Now this video was titled, Bride Get Ready. So it had my attention. And in this video, he talked about salt. There it was again. And he talked about turning off the noise in order to hear Christ. Now, right around this time, my phone started having problems. I had dropped it one day at the grocery store, and from that point forward, the volume wouldn't work. Anytime I tried to touch the volume, it would go down, 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 all the way to mute. And there was nothing I could do about it. I'd have to keep messing around with it and pushing it. The button for turning the volume down on the side of my phone was damaged. It had a chip taken out of it from falling, even with a case on it. So I was having problems with the volume on my phone. It was always going straight to mute. It was always turning down. So yes, it was on permanent mute. And one day, I finally realized, could this be a message from the Lord? Is he trying to tell me something? And of course, when I thought that, the spirit antennas went up just like they are right now. And I heard, yes, he's trying to tell you, turn the volume down. I want my children to turn the volume down. It's too loud. It's too loud. It's getting louder and louder. It's too noisy. They can't hear me. I'm trying to get through to them, but they can't hear me. And then, of course, President Nelson delivers that message to the youth and tells them to do a 7-day fast from social media. Kind of the same thing. It was interesting that he called it a fast, too. We're going to talk a little bit more about fasting a little bit later on in this video. And so the message that I'm hearing loud and clear from the Spirit and from the Lord is turn the volume down, whatever that means for you. Okay, so not too many days after that, my phone died. It wouldn't even take a charge anymore. So I woke up one morning, my phone was just fine, and then later on that afternoon, I went to plug it in to charge it, and I noticed that it wouldn't charge. Eventually, the battery drained, and it gave up the ghost. I had to get a new phone. And I took another message out of that. I heard in my mind, the communication is dying. And with a lot of my children, the communication is already dead. I know that was a pretty important message for him to get across to me, for him to use my iPhone that I've only had for a year, and it gave up the ghost on the day that the warranty expired. So I only had it for a year, and on the day that the warranty expired, my phone completely died. There's no salvaging it. And I thought about that as I started to look around. I thought how I've noticed that going on with a lot of my electronics, and I started to make a list. We'd had problems with our printer. Our printer was acting crazy and wasn't working. Then all of a sudden the DVD player and the TV in our car just totally went out. This was all around the same time too. So one day I'm sitting in the car and I turn it off and I hear this spinning sound. And I can hear the DVD spinning and it's on, but it says it's off and it's slowly draining the battery of my car. So that's just to name a few, but so many other electronics and things in our lives that we use that take up our time, that steal our attention and are creating noise. I've noticed in my own life, they were all starting to break and malfunction. And that's a pretty expensive problem to have. And at first I started to think, am I cursed? Has someone put a curse on me? You know, is this the adversary? And regardless of what it is, the Lord is using that to send a loud message to me that I'm more than happy to share with all of you. So back to this video of the Indian prophet, he said in there, he talked about fasting, and he talked about how Jonah, when he was in the belly of the whale, he was forced to fast for 3 days. So here we're going to kind of start talking a little bit about this 3-day fast again. And so Jonah was forced to fast for 3 days because he had no choice. He was trapped in the belly of a whale. And then we all know what happened after the whale spit him out. He was able to go preach the word unto the people of Nineveh and saved an entire city from destruction. Now I have a link to this video down below if you want to watch it, but there was a lot of really good substance to that video, so I highly recommend it. Okay, so I want to share a little bit from my journal now that kind of ties into all of this, and it's just amazing how that happens. It's amazing how scriptures just fall open and they happen to be about what it is I'm studying and what it is the Lord is telling me, and then I see signs. In fact, yesterday I was taking my girls to their dance lessons, and as I am driving in the car, I noticed the song is on the radio, One by U2, and I'm singing along to it because it's a good song, and I'm singing along to the words, and I'm like, oh yeah, this really is a great message of unity. It's all about being one, and if you listen to the words, that's what he talks about. And at one point in the song, he says Jesus, and as I said the word Jesus, right when I said that, I happened to be looking at the car next to me, diagonal from me, and it had one of those Jesus fish. It had the Christian Jesus fish on the back of the car. Right as I said Jesus, there it was. And then right as I look in front of me, I see In God We Trust on the back of someone else's car. And so this quick message just comes into my mind. We need to trust in the Lord and we need to be one. So there it was again, another witness. Now these things are happening all around me all the time. I'm writing it in my journal. I'm sharing it in these videos. Sometimes I share it on the Happy Lady page or in the 11th Hour Facebook group. It's all just additional witness of this message. I'm going to start by reading a dream that I had from my journal, and this dream was on the 18th of May. So I wrote that I had a dream that a friend of mine, who I occasionally run into, her last name happens to be Louder. So there was my first keyword, louder. And she was telling me that her son had died a few years prior. And in the dream, her son's name was Eli. Now, she doesn't really have a son named Eli. This was just in the dream, which told me that was my next keyword, was Eli. So I'm making note of all of this. I looked up the meaning to Eli, and it happens to mean high in Hebrew. Eli was a high priest in the Bible. So in this dream, she kept showing me a yellow t-shirt that Eli used to wear. And then suddenly in the dream, there were these stairs. They were very, very steep, and they were made out of stones, kind of like the corner of a pyramid. And I started to walk up these stairs. I was climbing higher and higher, and there were children following me. And suddenly I decided that it wasn't safe, that I shouldn't be going that high with these children following me. And so I turned around and made everybody climb back down. Shortly after that, I went to a restaurant and enjoyed an order of onion rings with my younger sister. Well, there was a lot of meaning in that dream for me. I started picking up right away what this dream meant, but I just want to share this with you, just a little bit of the meaning. So the color yellow always references being happy. T-shirts usually symbolize and represent the need to relax more. Stairs always represent a higher level of understanding. So going up the stairs, you're going higher and higher and you're progressing, and when you're going down the stairs, you're regressing. What's interesting is here's what I wrote about an onion. I wrote, layers you need to get through to unveil what's underneath. I used the word unveil. So the message that I pulled from this dream was that in order for me to rise higher and higher and get to these places where I so want to be, I need to take care of some unfinished business. All of those things that aren't pretty, that are still lingering under all those layers of the past, I need to pull open those layers and deal with those feelings and emotions and heal all of that if I want to get to those higher places. And of course, this is something I know, and it is something I've been working on. So to me, this dream was a witness of that. And if I do that, I'll be able to relax more. I'll be able to find happiness. So just a couple days later, the scripture that the Lord had for me one morning when I was in my closet was Doctrine and Covenants, section 109, verse 74. And I just summed that up as the Lord removes the veil over his bride. So again, of course, the bride always represents the church. It's all of us. So he lifts the veil, which has so much meaning. Okay, then after that, every scripture he sent me to had the word salutation and hand in it. So he took me to 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 17, where I read salutation and hand. These are keywords that I kept seeing. I have written down, these are the keywords I keep seeing today. This is the token. Okay, then he took me to Doctrine and Covenants, section 109, verse 19. And I have written again, salutations, holy hands uplifted. And you saw that a lot during the B1 celebration. You saw lots of hands lifted in praise and worship. And I just kept hearing holy hands, and salutations. So I know there's something more to that I need to ponder on. Okay, then a couple days later, he takes me to Moroni chapter 7, verse 13. And I have written here in my journal, everything that invites and entices to do good continually and to love God and serve him is inspired of God. And then in verse 14, I have, do not judge what is good to be of the devil. Then in verse 19, if you lay hold of every good thing and condemn it not, you will be a child of Christ. This had a lot of meaning for me because I feel like as I start to move up higher and higher and I start to learn things that are really awesome, that there are people out there who take those same things and try to turn it around as something negative or something wrong or something of the devil. And it can create quite a bit of fear in a lot of people. And you start to hear people say, those things are not of the Lord. Those things are of darkness. Those things are of the devil. You could be deceived. And of course, you know, the minute you start to experience doubt or fear, it stops that progression. And you have to know that as you go higher and higher and get closer and closer to the presence of the Lord, you're gonna have these awesome supernatural experiences that you can't explain, where sometimes you just wanna pinch yourself. If you're ready for it, then it's amazing and it's wonderful and it's beautiful and it pulls you closer to the Lord. It makes you want to serve him more. You love him more. You feel more devoted to him and you just want more of the Lord. So in these scriptures, he's saying, if it entices you to do good and it brings you closer to me and entices you to serve more, then it is of the Lord. It's a good thing. Then of course you have people that try to pull you away from that and say, no, don't mess around with that, or if you're having these experiences, you might be being deceived or whatever it may be. And it's that doubt and that fear that kind of pulls you back down and you start to regress. So Joseph Smith experienced this when he spoke of a Methodist preacher that he encountered after he had the first vision. And he wanted to talk to him about this experience, and he said that the Methodist preacher was very active in the religious excitement that was going on at that time. So he felt comfortable talking to him about this. However, he says right here, I was greatly surprised at his behavior. He treated my communication not only lightly, but with great contempt, saying it was all of the devil, that there were no such things as visions or revelations in these days, that all such things had ceased with the apostles, and that there would never be any more of them. I felt like that's kind of what that dream is about as well, that, you know, as you start climbing higher and higher and then you experience fear, you know, oh no, am I ready for this? What if I'm not ready for this? What if I do something wrong? You know, whatever it may be, that doubt and that fear starts to actually cause regression. And so I'm getting this message, don't fear about the future. Don't fear where the Lord takes you. Don't fear that. Just focus on Him in the moment, in every moment of your day. Just look for Him and try to feel Him and talk to Him and say His name and feel Him there, and just know that He's guiding you, and just feel at peace. And as long as you're feeling at peace and you can relax, just know you're gonna have a bright future. Just know that He has your future in His hands. Now it's funny because after that, I was told to go to page 304 in the book, Jesus Calling, and here's what it said. So I summed it up. Turn your thoughts to me so you can think more positively. Don't linger in the future too long. When imagining the future, see me there with you. So I thought about in my own life how there's things that are going to be happening down the road, things that I'm a part of, things that I've been asked to participate in, and how sometimes if I start thinking about it too much or I'm there for too long in my mind, all of a sudden I start getting a little bit of fear and anxiety about the unknown. Well, what if this goes wrong? Or what if that happens? Or what if I don't do this right? Or what if I say the wrong thing? Or what if I mess up, right? And you start thinking of all these things. What if people don't understand? What if they take it the wrong way? And it's all those little what ifs that start to put us in that place of fear and anxiety, which lowers that frequency and starts to send us back down the stairs towards regression, which is a place we don't want to be. So these are all just reminders for me that I'm so happy to share with you, to just stay in a place of peace. And when we think about the future and our mind does go to the future, to always see the Lord there with us. And if He's there with us, then we have nothing to fear. Okay, so then a couple days later, I was in my prayer closet and I was sent to Helaman 6:36. And I have written, the Lord began to pour out His Spirit upon the Lamanites because of their easiness and willingness to believe in His words. So that right there is key. When we're willing to believe in the words of the Lord and to believe things that other people might not be open to or might not be willing to believe or accept, when we're willing to do that and we make it easy, then the Lord pours out His Spirit upon us, and that's when amazing things happen in our lives. Okay, then I was taken to 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 3, and I have written, go do all that is in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee. So whatever it is that's in your heart, those promptings that you keep feeling pressed to do, those things that you feel passionate about, well, you feel passionate about them for a reason. It's part of your divine calling, part of your mission in this life. You're being guided towards those things. So He's saying right here, go do all that is in your heart. The Lord is with you. Okay, then I have written, seek my face and you will find me more than you ever dreamed possible. Let me displace worry at the center of your being. And I believe that was probably from a Jesus Calling page. I don't have it written down, but it was just saying, you know, when you start seeking me, you're going to find more than you ever dreamed possible. I think that's exciting. Okay, now here's where it gets really awesome. I'm going to talk to you in just a minute here about a 3-day fast that I did towards the end of May, which is so funny to me because after I went through this, I saw many of you out there posting on Facebook and commenting in other places that you too had also done a 3-day fast in the month of May. So I just think that's pretty awesome. So I have written down here on May 30th, I fasted for a whole list of things this time, and I'm only going to share a handful of those items. But one of the things I fasted about had to do with 7 days. It had to do with a week, and it had to do with healing. And I was immediately taken to Numbers chapter 12, verses 13 and 14, not having any idea what the scripture would be about. And here's what I read. I summed it up. Heal her now, O God. Let her be out for 7 days. Then receive her again. And I felt it all over. That was a direct answer for me. Okay, then I have a star next to this one. I was taken to Joshua chapter 3 verse 5, and I have written down, sanctify yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And so I felt this had to do with my fast. I was in the midst of fasting, which is sanctification. It's a process of sanctification of mind, body, and spirit. And the scripture is telling me, the Lord is telling me right here, sanctify yourself, and tomorrow the Lord's going to do wonders. You're going to see miracles. So I put a star next to that right here. Then I was told to go to page 105 in the book Jesus Calling, and I wrote down, trust me in every detail of your life. Nothing is random. Thank me at all times. So moving on to May 31st, I was taken to the scripture, Jacob chapter 7, verse 21, and I wrote down, they were astonished exceedingly, insomuch that the power of God came upon them, and they were overcome, that they fell to the earth. And there are many instances throughout the scriptures where the Spirit of God is poured out upon someone and they just fall to the ground. It's like they look like they're passing out or fainting. And I think of Alma the Younger, and I think of Saul on the road to Damascus when he became Paul and he was in the presence of the Lord and he just fell to the earth. And they had to escort him into Damascus. He was unable to get there on his own. Here it was again in Jacob, talking about the power of God being so powerful that they fell to the earth. I also think about King Lamoni and his wife and their servants. When the power of God came upon them, when the Spirit poured out upon them, they fell to the earth as if they were dead. That's the kind of effect that the Spirit can have upon us. When you make that big of a jump from a low vibration, a low frequency to the power of the Lord, and you make a shift that quick, it physically takes you out. You feel weak in the knees. You lose that physical strength and you're just taken out. Other churches refer to that as being slain in the Spirit. So then I'm told to go to Exodus chapter 19, verse 10, having no idea what it's about. And I put a star next to this one as well. This is pretty awesome, you guys. Sanctify the people, and on the third day I will come into the sight of the people. There it was again. And then I wrote down verse 9 and 15. I will manifest as a thick cloud. Be ready against the third day. There it was, the third day, the third day. So I'm hearing third day, 3 days, sanctification, presence of the Lord, Spirit of the Lord, wonders, miracles, 3 days. Here it is. Third day power in the 11th hour. This is what it's all about. In this 11th hour, we need to make our focus sanctification, all about cleansing the vessel. It's really interesting to me right now because, I mean, the timing of all this is impeccable. I just started eating more clean and I'm trying to get my body into ketosis. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this before, and if you don't, just Google the keto diet or ketosis. But it's kind of similar to when I did that 90-day challenge that completely changed my life. I reference this challenge all the time in videos, my blog posts, and my books. It was this 90-day challenge for mind, body, and spirit, and part of it was eating clean and eating in a way that our body did go into this ketosis, which when this process happens in your body no longer uses sugar as a fuel source. It starts burning fat. And what happens is when your body goes through this process, you lose all your addictions. You no longer have those cravings for sugar and junk food and all these other things that kind of sabotage our diet and our health. And you lose all the cravings for that, and you lose that urge to eat more, to eat seconds and thirds. You just feel like you just need so much to eat and you're satisfied and you feel great. And I can testify to this because I did this for 90 days and it completely changed my life. That was a time in my life when I had this huge spiritual kickstart and all these amazing things started to manifest in my life, and it took me on this journey to where I am today. And so I'm kind of going through this again. I'm eating in a way that I'm cleansing that inner vessel. And then I did this 3-day fast to kickstart that. And I've just seen incredible miracles happen. And this seems to be the theme right now. I keep hearing cleanse the inner vessel, sanctify the people, wait upon the third day, expect miracles, expect to see the Lord, expect to experience the Lord. And so I don't believe this is a message that's just for me. I believe this is a message that's for all of you 11th hour workers. This is a message for all of us right now. Okay, before I share more about the fast, I just want to read this last little part of my journal that was on June 1st. And I was taken to Alma chapter 1, verse 26. The people are all equal, and those of the church are more prosperous than those outside the church. So the people are equal. They're at a place where they have become one. Then I was taken to page 60 in Jesus Calling, and again, I have it right here. Don't worry about tomorrow. Focus on me. And I truly believe that the adversary uses anxiety and worry and fear as a tool to distract us and pull us down the stairs back into regression. And he's really good at doing this. So just as we're reaching a high point, we're experiencing a climax, we've just made it to another level and things are looking so wonderful, all of a sudden things start to happen in our lives, and just out of the blue, things happen and suddenly we start to worry, we start to doubt, we start to second guess ourselves, we start to experience fear, we start to have anxiety, and when we go into that place, when we go into that frequency, we start going back down the stairs, back down the ladder. And the Lord's trying to tell us, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't constantly be thinking about the future. Focus on the present. This is where I am. I'm here with you right now, holding your hand, and I'll still be with you in the future. But see me right now. See what it is I'm doing in your life right now. Look for me. Acknowledge that I'm there. Take my hand. Feel my presence. Say my name. And lose all that fear. Lose all that anxiety. I will melt it away. And sanctify that inner vessel. When you sanctify and cleanse yourself through fasting, especially a 3-day fast, you lose all that anxiety, you lose all that worry. You come to this place of peace. And as those sugar addictions start to leave you, I truly believe it has a lot to do with energy, the frequencies of the foods that we eat, especially when we're filling our bodies with low frequency foods of low vibrations, and we're putting those low frequencies and those low vibrations into our own body. That has an effect on us physically and spiritually and emotionally and mentally. And we're sabotaging ourselves when we do this. And so when we step back and we do a fast, we cleanse all of that out of our body, it elevates us to a higher level. It takes us to a higher frequency. It matches more of the frequencies of heaven, and we start to have more of those heavenly experiences, those divine encounters, those miracles manifesting, those signs and wonders. We start to experience that because we're taken higher, we're lifted above where we can see all of that. Our eyes are opened, and when we're pressed down and weighed down by these lower frequencies and vibrations, we're blinded, we're not able to see, we're not able to hear. So this message that I'm getting overall is turn down the noise so that we can hear, and cleanse and sanctify the inner vessel so that we can be open and that we can see. And as we do this, our lives are going to change, and He is going to use us in powerful ways in His kingdom in this hour right now. Okay, now I'm going to take you to another journal because I have so many different journals for so many different subjects. On May 14th, I wrote in here a prayer. I'm not going to read the entire prayer, but I did say in here, I'm ready. I'm ready for the next level. And I'm ready to operate in signs, wonders, and miracles more than I ever have before. And I just went on here to say all the things that I'm ready to do and how excited I am. And I feel like I'm ready to move mountains, and I'm ready to sound trumpets. I'm ready to wake up weary souls. And I just went on and on and on. The very next day, I had a dream. And in there, I drew a picture of it right there. I wrote that I had a dream that I was looking down at a map of land and water, and I was with other people, and we were being shown by a messenger certain pieces of land that were about to disappear off the map permanently as part of prophecy fulfillment of the Lord's coming. That's what we were told. We were actually excited for this and cheering because we knew this meant that the time was at hand. And so I was just shown this chunk of land and a piece that would break off and sink, and that this was part of prophecy. And I didn't recognize the land. I don't remember paying attention to what it was. I just remember it was shown to us like a map, and there were even dotted lines and arrows showing us where it would break off. A few days later, on May 23rd, I wrote another prayer. I wrote, "Please help me move forward in faith and in peace with this new chapter that I'm going into. I feel I need a teacher who can show me this next level, someone who's already experienced this level, who can guide me and kind of show me the ropes." So I wrote in there, next level. So I used those words. I even have it underlined right there. So that night as I was praying, I saw in my mind the word, kind of like someone had cut out letters of a magazine and glued them, and they were gluing them in front of me. So I see all these little different shaped fonts and letters pop up in my mind, and I see the word, the resolution, and that's all I see. I didn't know at the time what that meant, but I wrote it down. The resolution. Okay, Lord, I'm waiting. I want to hear more. What's the resolution? As I sat there praying and meditating on what that could mean, so this was after my prayer, suddenly I hear this ding on my phone, and I looked down and there was an alert that popped up. My kids sometimes get into my phone and they play that Candy Crush Saga game, and sometimes I'll turn on the alerts and they pop up on my phone. Now that I have my new phone, this doesn't happen anymore, but on my old phone before it broke, I got this alert right in that moment, and it had 2 hearts. Here's a screenshot. I took a screenshot, and it said, "Sweet bonus effects if you finish levels without losing a life." Wow. Something so small like that had such significance for me. And I took that. There it was again, the word level. And I heard in my mind, I interpreted that as, look, if you want to go to this next level, then you need to finish the level you're currently at. You still have some things there that you need to take care of and you need to finish. And if you do it well, without losing life, without losing your passion, your happiness, your joy, if you do it well, there will be sweet bonus effects that wait you. There will be wondrous blessings and miracles and wonders that await you. So I got this alert right at 2:50. So I wrote down the number 25, which I've since learned means grace upon grace, something that I needed to hear. Later on, as I prayed and I pondered, right before my fast, this was days leading up to my fast. After the last video that I shared, I did have some people reach out to me with mixed feelings, and they were saying, "Are you sure that this Honoring America tour is something that you should get involved in? It does involve people of other churches who believe in different doctrines. Are you sure you're not getting mixed in with the wrong people and you're going down a path you shouldn't be going down? And are you going to send out the wrong message to other people? You know, I don't know if I feel good about this. I'm not quite sure what this is you're doing. I just want to share my concern with you." So I did hear that from a few people. And even though I felt good about it, and I had had so many positive experiences guiding me to this, feeling like this is the right thing I need to do, suddenly, as these people started expressing their concerns, or they just weren't quite understanding what it was I was doing, and some of them hadn't seen the previous videos, so they didn't know who Lynn Ridenauer was, and they didn't hear my whole story about the Book of Mormon conference, and so they didn't hear all these other awesome experiences that led up to this. Putting all that aside, I was just hearing these messages coming through, and then I started to feel a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of doubt and a little bit of, well, is this something I should do? And even though I want to do it and I've always felt good about it, maybe I do need to step back a little bit and examine this better. And now that's something I've taught many times before in my books and in my videos, is that anytime the Lord pushes you in a direction and it feels really good and you're excited and you feel passionate about it and it feels like the right thing to do, and you get going down that path, and then all of a sudden out of the blue one day you just feel overwhelmed with anxiety or worry or doubt, I've always said that that's not how the Lord works. The Lord doesn't send us doubt, confusion, or fear, or worry, or anxiety. Those are all frequencies and vibrations that come from the adversary. Those are his tools to take us off track. Now, when we get started on something and it feels right and it feels good and we've prayed about it and we feel the Spirit confirm to us more than once that that's what we need to be doing, then we need to hold tight to that. And so that's why it's so important to keep a journal and write down your feelings and experiences so that when those days come, when the doubt creeps in and the naysayers speak up, you can go back and read all the different ways that the Lord had manifested to you what it is that you need to be doing, and all those witnesses that you received and that truth that you felt and those spiritual experiences that you had that were overwhelming, that confirmed those decisions and the path that you're on. It's so important to keep a journal so you can go back and be reminded and refill that spirit and bask in that light again and feel confident in what it is the Lord is asking you to do. So I go back and I revisit all those past experiences. I watch my past videos, I read my journals, and I think, yes, that's right. How could I disregard all those witnesses? So anyways, that's what had happened to me though. Just for a moment, I was experiencing a little bit of doubt, a little bit of anxiety, all the what ifs, and I voiced my concern about it to my Father in heaven, and I wrote down another prayer and said, you know, please give me some comfort on this. And right away, he told me, go to Doctrine and Covenants, section 111, and go to verse 12. I had no idea what this was about. So I opened it up, and I'm going to read to you exactly what I have written in my journal. I, the Lord your God, am not displeased with your coming this journey. I have much treasure in this for you. Many people in this will I gather out for the benefit of Zion. Through your instrumentality, therefore, it is important that you should form an acquaintance with the men, and I have in parentheses, and women, in this, as you shall be led. Peace and power of my spirit shall flow unto you. Be wise, without sin, and I will order all things for your good, as fast as you are able to receive them. Let your habitation be known in Zion. I, the Lord, have a great work for you to do. Gird up your loins for the work. Be humble, and the Lord will lead you by the hand and give you answers. Follow me and feed my sheep. Go into the world and preach my gospel. How great is your calling! Cleanse your heart and garments. Be faithful until I come. I come quickly. Wow, that was my answer right there. And I felt it again. And he was telling me, you know what? I am not in any way displeased with this journey that you're on. I have guided you down this path. There is much treasure in this for you. And he said, I'm doing an awesome work with all of this. Many people will I gather out from this event and bring them into Zion. Through your instrumentality, you will be an instrument in my hands for this work. Therefore, it's important that you should get acquainted with these people. It's exactly what he says. And it's funny because Lynn Ridenauer says in the description of this tour and of this entire event, he says, I feel that us brothers and sisters from these different churches need to become acquainted with one another. And he uses that very word, acquainted. And that's exactly what he says in here. Now, what's funny is I did have someone voice their concern to me. Well, aren't you worried that everybody on this committee, they're all men and you're the only sister? Doesn't that concern you at all? Even though we all live in different states. And right there, he says, therefore, it is important that you should form an acquaintance with the men in this event. And he says, I know you, and if you exercise wisdom without sin, then everything's going to work out. I'm going to order all things to be for your good. So even if things happen the way that you don't want them to happen or the way that you didn't expect them to happen, if some difficulties arise, don't be afraid, don't fear, because I will order everything to be for your good. So it's all going to work out in the end. And so he just went on to say that you have an important work to do. So be humble, and I'm going to lead you by the hand and give you the answers that you need. This was powerful for me, and this gave me so much comfort and so much peace, which was again an answer, which is where I'm now leading to with my fast, my 3-day fast that I did. The morning when I received that revelation from the Lord about him giving me his blessing on this Honoring America tour. And he woke me up in the morning, and I went into my prayer closet, and he gave me this download, sent me to that scripture. I looked at the clock and I took a picture of it right here. It was 3:11, of course. So when I was coming home from the Apple store and I was thinking, oh, well, that was a little discouraging, everything that they just told me, that I need to just recycle my phone and there's no hope. And I thought, oh, do I have the energy to pray for another miracle? Like, I had that big video I did a couple months ago where I had all those big miracles, and it was so awesome. But do I have the energy to pursue that again and do a 3-day fast and ask for more big miracles? And I'm not even kidding. Right when I turn the car on, I'm getting ready to pull onto the freeway, and all of a sudden I hear the words to the song that just happened to be on the radio. And the song is called He Still Does Miracles by Hawk Nelson. Here's a screenshot. So I look at that and I start listening to the words, and in that moment that I pick up on it, this is what I hear. A broken heart can be restored, but my ears replaced heart with a broken phone can be restored. But whatever it is in your life, just replace it with that. So the words say, a broken heart can be restored, a broken soul can be reborn, and greater things are still in store for us. You will see he still does miracles. And then it goes on, miracles, miracles, miracles. He still does miracles. He still does. More than you can dare to dream. Miracles, miracles, miracles. More than you have ever seen. Okay, right in that moment, I heard that scripture that I shared earlier in this video from Jesus Calling. It was in my journal. Seek my face and you will find me more than you ever dreamed possible. So there it was. We just have to seek. And when we seek, once we ask, we have to exercise that agency. We have to ask. That's all we have to do. We ask, we exercise faith, and he gives us more than we ever dreamed of. And in that moment, I was like, yes, of course. There's my answer. You are so awesome, Lord. I felt it from head to toe. And that's when I decided then and there, I'm doing a 3-day fast. I'm going to ask for miracles. And you better believe he's been delivering those miracles. So I documented my fast. I wrote it down here. I started it on the evening of the 29th. And so on May 30th, I wrote about it and I wrote a prayer. And I just said, you know what, here's what I'm gonna do. My fast began on May 29th, and it's going to go to this day at this time. And during these 3 days, here's what it is that's going to be on my heart. Here's what it is I'm pondering about. Here's what it is I'm fasting for. And I numbered each of those items. I had 11 items. And then I said, here's what I'm willing to do to receive these blessings. I promise you that I'm gonna do an honest fast, and that it's going to be heartfelt and genuine. And I promise you that I will exercise faith to receive these blessings. And I even signed my name at the bottom like I always do. And it was legit. It began. Anyways, it was just fun to check off. I have these little check marks next to each one. As each thing has come to pass, I have checked them off. And they've actually happened in the order that I wrote them down. So that's been super exciting. And I'm just going to share with you just a few of the things that I had on here. The first thing that I wrote down on here was restoring all the data that I had lost on my phone because my phone broke. And when I took it into the Apple store, they said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. You can just recycle your phone. You've pretty much lost everything. There's no hope. Well, I've learned before that when someone says there's no hope, they don't know the God that I serve, because there is hope. And so I knew exactly what to do, and I contacted my people and they referred me to a great place in Arizona. I mailed my phone off to them. They received it a couple days ago, and I've already been in communication with them. They're working on it right now to see what videos and pictures they can pull from that. And I have complete faith and confidence that I'm gonna get back everything that I need. And I did lose a lot of videos that I was gonna use for my vlog, and things that I wanted to share with you, photos that I had taken, they were all gone. So they're in the process right now of restoring that. So something that I had written on here was my tour guide down in Mexico when we went to Cancun. I had this overwhelming prompting when I returned home that I needed to send him a Book of Mormon, along with a copy of a history of the Cherokee people, because I had received that history at that Book of Mormon conference. I was one of the lucky few to get a copy. I purchased a copy of that, And in there, it talked about so many things that he shared about his people, the Mayan people, on our tour. And then in that Cherokee history, they talked about their connections to the Mayan people. And so it all was connected to the Book of Mormon, and I was so excited. So I bought him a Spanish Book of Mormon. I wrote my testimony in there. I shipped it all off, and he never received it. This was a couple months ago. So the post office was telling me, well, usually when this happens, you know, there is insurance on it, so we'll just give you the money back. But I kept thinking, but I don't remember what I had written in my testimony, and I felt it was so inspired. I just want him to get that testimony, and I just want him to get that Book of Mormon, and I want him to get everything I did to make that package special. I filled it with so much love. I just want him to get that package. It's not about the money. And anyways, as I got talking to people on Facebook, everybody that has ever mailed packages to Mexico told me, well, it's a loss. You're never going to see that package again. Never send anything through the U.S. Postal Service to Mexico. Always use DHL. They had their other recommendations to use. And so I was thinking, oh no, oh no. And then I thought, no. I believe in miracles. I've done this before. I know anything is possible. So I called the post office. I got an investigation going to see if they could locate this package that never made it to him. It never says it was delivered. And anyways, after this 3-day fast, look at this letter that came in the mail. I'm going to read it to you. It says, Dear customer, this is in further response to the inquiry you recently filed on insured article which you sent to Mexico. The Postal Service of Mexico has advised us that this article is currently being held, awaiting pickup by the addressee. We suggest you contact the addressee and advise them of this information. So I reached out to my tour guide and I said, oh my goodness, all this time, this package has been sitting at the post office in your area. They're just waiting for you to come pick it up. Even though it never sent off an alert under the tracking to show that it had arrived in his city, and even though he never received any notification whatsoever that there was a package awaiting for him, regardless of that, it's there. They have located it. So I remember telling the Lord, even if someone stole that package and it's long gone by now, I know you're a supernatural God, and I know that you can duplicate that package and make it appear in that post office. I know you can do that. So, you know, I'm not sure how the Lord made that happen. I just know he made that happen, and that package has been located and it is there waiting for him to pick up. So I was so excited I was able to check that off the list. My son had ordered a shirt online that he was so excited to get. He paid for it with his own allowance money. And then of course, when we were putting in the order at the store, at the mall, they got our address wrong. And so when we caught it just minutes later, it was too late. It had already left the warehouse, and it's been this long drawn out process for a few weeks now, and they haven't been able to get that package to us. And they kept telling us, well, if it ends up going to the wrong address, there's a real chance that that person could open it and keep the shirt. And then we're not sure at that point what we need to do to make it right. So, you know, it wasn't the best customer service that we were experiencing. Well, anyways, every time I checked the tracking, there was no updates on the status, and so many days had gone by, and my son kept saying, where's my shirt? I really, really want this shirt. So I put this on here as part of, as an item on my list for fasting, that I just wanted my son to be able to get his shirt so he could have this and be happy. And, you know, nothing's too small for the Lord. Nothing's too minimal for the Lord. At the end of my fast, I called the 1-800 number, got somebody on the phone, told them the situation, just said every time I check in, nobody knows what's going on, nobody knows what happened to the package or where it is or if we're going to get it. And that day I happened to get a really, really nice lady on the phone, where before the people I was talking to weren't too excited about their job, and it just wasn't the best experience. This lady was super kind, super sweet, and she was able to track the package and said it's on its way to your house as we speak. So she said we should get it later this week. Anyways, so I was able to check that off the list. Then, like I had mentioned before, the TV in our car just broke one day, and we hardly ever use it, so I was kind of sad, and we got it a couple years ago. We've gone through a couple TVs over the years, and so I was pretty bummed about it, thinking, well, we're gonna get a new car eventually in the next year or two. Is it even worth it? Should I go get it fixed? And something told me, if it's important to you, it's important to the Lord, and you know how awesome the Lord is, so just ask. So So I wrote it down, you know, getting the car TV restored, but without having to fork out any money, because at this point, I mean, these things are getting expensive. So I decided to call the car place where we had it installed, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a receipt. I don't even remember the date when we brought it in, but I'm pretty sure it was your business. And the guy said, well, you know what? We took over the ownership like a year ago, so there's no records anymore of the past customers anyways. And he said, why don't you take a picture of the TV in your car and the model number and the serial number, and we'll just go from there. Because I didn't want to drive all the way down to Bountiful just for them to tell me they can't help me, and then I have to drive all the way back. So I took a picture, emailed it in, and right at the end of my fast, I get a phone call. And it's the man from the store, and he says, I have great news for you. We looked up the serial number on your model of your TV, and it has a 3-year warranty. And where you told me you bought it 2 years ago, that means you're still covered. So we are going to replace it with a brand new TV, DVD player, completely free of charge. So awesome. So I drove it down there, and within no time, they pulled out the old TV, put the new one in, didn't charge me a penny. So awesome. Then I prayed about receiving comfort and peace for my role and participation in the Honoring America tour, and I did receive that experience. I had an overwhelming confirmation, just overwhelmed in peace that this was something that I was to participate in. And then one more thing I'll mention on this list is I talked about my printer, how our printer stopped working right at the end of my fast on the 3rd day. Right after all this was happening and I just got off the phone with that man, my daughter comes into the kitchen and she's like, look, Mom, look what I just printed on the printer. And it was this coloring page that she was excited to color. And so that clearly told me that the printer was now fixed. And I remember when I was praying over that, I said, I know you are a God of amazing things. I know there isn't anything that you can't do. And if you could just send a team of angels who are experts with fixing printers, that would be awesome. If they could just work on my printer and get it fixed for me so we don't have to put out any more money for this. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly the printer was working just fine. And I mean, prior to this, there were days when it would print, but it would put these purple lines through everything and it looked terrible. And this has been going on for a couple of months. Then there were days where it just wouldn't even print at all, and it would give us all kinds of errors. We've had it for a really long time. Pretty sure we've had this for at least 8 or 9 years. So I mean, it is about that time for it to expire. But I was so grateful that the Lord fixed the printer and it's working great. No more purple lines. It's working better than it was before. That's how awesome our God is. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit here. After last week's video message, someone sent me an email and I just wanted to share with you. You'll see why when I read it. Hi Lindsay, in your miracle video, you shared that you had scriptures and other passages come to your mind when praying for help through your tough trial. The message, when you put it all together, was so beautiful. I needed to hear it so much. I then knelt down and poured my heart out to the Lord. I began seeing 23, but I didn't know what that meant. So I started to look up scriptures, but didn't really come across anything in particular. I did still feel that the Lord was with me, and that just because I didn't find anything, it didn't mean that it wasn't meaningful. And then I listened to your 11th hour worker video this morning. Wow, the Spirit bore witness to me that I am being called as an 11th hour worker. I felt the Spirit so strong. Thank you so much for your videos. I don't think I would have ever found this information on my own, and your videos have truly blessed my life. After I listened to your video, I sat pondering while eating breakfast. I then thought about President Nelson and how you mentioned that it is no coincidence that we have a heart surgeon as our prophet this day to come and help heal the hearts of the people. I then had another thought. It is not a coincidence that our prophet is 93 years old, working with the elderly. I see so many people coming to the end of their lives and they begin to slow down and lose hope. I would say that at least 80% take anxiety or depression medications. These are good people. I feel that President Nelson will bring hope to the elderly again, and that we will see many rise up and begin to be stronger and bear solid witness of the Lord Jesus Christ to our younger generations. I feel this is significant because the world has led to disrespect the older generation. I've often pondered the prophet's age because you don't see many 93-year-olds walk with a skip in their step, but I think the prophet's age will inspire and bring hope back to many lives. There are so many other thoughts that I feel that go along with that. So I hope I got that message out clear and you understand what I'm trying to convey. I feel so blessed and humbled to be a part of this glorious work. Okay, so this is my friend that I talked about earlier that had shared about how she felt that the prophet's age was actually going to bring hope to the older generations. So this was her email. So here's what I wrote back. Wow, thanks for sharing. It's such an awesome responsibility to be an 11th hour worker. I believe that to be part of, many are called but few are chosen. Truthfully, few choose to be chosen. When you start having those conversations with the Lord, that you accept the call, He unfolds your work before you and it all starts to make sense. I love what you shared about President Nelson's age. I agree completely. I get this feeling that we are going to start living longer and also that the elderly will learn that they too can be called to do a great work at their place in life. I love this. She wrote back, I agree. The Lord's grace is so amazing. I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, you posted a message on Facebook that said, be ready by August. Now, I remember this because it was just one sentence and it was on my personal Facebook page. I just felt prompted to write, be ready by August, and I knew that was for somebody out there. Now, I remember at the time thinking, why did I just do that? And I even had several people comment, maybe this message is for you and you don't need to be publicly posting it out there. Maybe the Spirit's telling you to be ready by August. Anyways, I knew it was for somebody out there. So here's what she wrote. I wrote you later and said that that message may not have been for me, but it was a blessing to me. It gave me hope as I was in a place where I didn't have the will to live anymore. I never thought of self-harm, but I was in such darkness that I prayed often for the Lord to just take me. Anyway, I just think back at that depressing and dark time and at what a tragic place I was in. And here I am now, just in a totally different place, and my journey upward started that August. Also, about that same time in my life, my email box was saying 666, 666. When I looked at my phone, I kept deleting emails so it wouldn't read it, but every time I looked down at my phone, those numbers were there. I just tried to laugh it off and was going to send it to someone and make a joke, but I never did. I just can't believe that message was staring me straight in the face that I chose to ignore. I am so thankful that you are in tune with the Spirit and sent that message of hope out to me so long ago. So I wrote back, that is so neat. I remember typing that and lots of people poked fun at it. I'm glad it had meaning for you. I don't always know why I do things. I just feel like I'm supposed to, and so I do. Thanks for always sharing your thoughts and experiences with me. I love it. I'm so glad you are in a great place on your journey. It's always a sign that when the enemy has us down in the dumps, there's something grand on the horizon that he is trying to keep us from. I truly believe that, and I wanted to share that with you because I feel like many of you out there might be in a similar situation and you can resonate with this message. Never give up hope. In fact, when things are going so awful in your life that you just feel like giving up, that should actually give you hope because the enemy wouldn't be working that hard if there wasn't something amazing just around the corner awaiting for you. So know that you are an amazing person, you have an amazing mission, and there are incredible blessings in store just around the corner, and the enemy knows that, and he knows that if he lets you go around that corner, you're going to rise up to that level. You're going to be powerful in the Lord's kingdom, which means you're going to be a threat to the enemy. He doesn't want you to know your potential. He doesn't want you to see those blessings, and so he's going to do everything he can to pull you down, make you feel hopeless, and feel like giving up, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to put an end to your mission. Okay, now I want to share another email that came in, and this had to do with diamonds, which is something I also talked about in the last video message. I've talked about a couple times this year. Okay, the email says, "Hi Lindsay, I wanted to write you an email since this is a bit more personal. The timing of your message this past week really meant a lot to me, and I wanted to tell you why. I met with Mike Simpson this past week per your recommendation and just had an amazing session with him. Life-changing, really. I went for a physical ailment and he was able to help me see how it was tied to a lot of emotional pain that I was carrying around and then assist me in releasing it. He walked me through some amazing imagery while under hypnosis, where he encouraged me to hand the pain over to the Savior and let him replace that pain with his perfect light and love. It was an incredibly powerful experience and one I am only scratching the surface on so that I can give you a background for the next part. Next, he told me to imagine diamonds falling from the sky around me. Instantly, I thought of your video this past week and the man that literally has gemstones falling out of the sky. I talked about that, and there are other videos that I shared in links of people who experienced diamonds falling from the sky. Mike had me imagine these diamonds coming toward me and filling in the holes in my body, places of past pain and hurt. What a strange thing, right? In the moment, though, it made total sense to my mind, and because of your vlog, I very quickly imagined those perfectly 8-point cut diamonds and connected them to Christ. So you'll have to watch that video if you don't know what we're talking about here. It's all about the 8-pointed star and the symbol of Christ. I easily pictured them as a gift of his light and his love filling in all those old holes, those wounds. That exercise would not have been as powerful for me had you not had shared your insights about diamonds. The timing was so perfect for me. Now I remember when I put that in the video, I was thinking, should I really talk about diamonds again? We've already covered this topic, but I felt like, no, I'm supposed to share this. And so it was so random. It was so out of place with the theme of that video. But this was a witness for me that never second guess a prompting. If the Lord tells you to share something or do something, just do it. She says, I just think it's incredible that your story of falling gems and 8-point diamonds being a symbol of Christ would come just days before Mike used that very imagery to help me with healing. I guess those stories were for me this week. Something else I'll share with you from my session with Mike. What he had me do was hand my heart over to the Savior and talk to him about the pain from these experiences we had zeroed in on. Mike asked me to describe what my heart looked like when I handed it over, saying usually people see their hearts covered in black tar, but I didn't see that. I just kept seeing a gray stone making up part of my heart. I finally said, I just saw stone, and he was so surprised. I was surprised I used this word too, as I would usually say rock, but I heard myself say stone. After prompting some other conversation, Mike had me accept a new heart of flesh from the Savior, and again asked me to describe what I saw this time. And to me it was glowing this bright golden glow and actually looked like it was infused with shimmery gold. One of the most amazing things is that when the new heart was placed inside my chest, I could actually hear my heart beating through my body. Mike had asked me earlier in the session to raise my hand and indicate when I could hear my heart beating, and try as I might, I could not. But as soon as I imagined the new heart coming from the Savior being placed into my body, my actual real live heart could be heard. This was something that kind of surprised Mike as well. It was such an amazing experience. After the session was done, Mike excitedly showed me a scripture that came to his mind from Ezekiel 36:26. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. It wasn't until I was driving home that I realized that not only had I handed over a heart of stone, but I had been handed back a heart of gold as well. It made me realize that there might be more to those expressions than we think. We really do find healing by turning to the Savior and handing him our burdens. It is such a literal thing. I am so grateful for your focus on this in your videos this year, and for also putting the word out there about Mike and being so open with me about your time with him. I could not stop grinning when I was done with that session with him. I felt so light and free. It was amazing. My bubbly and outgoing personality that I remember having years ago seems to have come back more, as well as energy. I honestly just feel like a huge heavy burden has been lifted off of my shoulders, and it has been wonderful. So again, thank you. And what's fun to me with all of this is on Sunday, my husband and I were asked to prepare talks, and guess what the topic is? Finding peace through Jesus Christ. I cannot wait to dive more into this topic. What perfect timing. Oh, and one other thing that came to mind to tell you, as again a confirmation that you were guided to share some of the things you have shared. I so enjoyed hearing the podcast interview someone did with Mike that you posted on your blog. I had it pop into my mind to go visit your blog, and I saw it. This was 1 to 2 days after I had visited with Mike, so hearing his thoughts at that was meaningful to me, but it taught me something that kind of amazed me. This was actually my second session with Mike. In my first one, we had a good chat, but he could not get me into hypnosis to help me. It was a bit frustrating for both of us, I think. Add to that, it takes about 2 months to be able to get into a session with him, and I just wasn't really sure if I should try working with him again or not. Time for my next session with him rolled around, and I just had a bad day before going to see him. I was feeling anxiety about it and negative, and told my husband that maybe I should just cancel it. So I just talked about this. I just talked about anxiety. Well, thankfully I didn't. But on my drive to go see him that day, I was just a few blocks away when suddenly I had the thought come to mind that I needed to cast out. Like right there. So here I am at a stoplight in Sandy, and I oh so casually brought my arm to the square and cast out. Ha ha. Oh, the looks I'm sure I got from others sitting in their cars around me. But it was such a distinct thought to make sure that I was not allowing any bad spirits to follow me into my session and try to sabotage any of it. That was the impression that I had. So just imagine how interesting it was for me to hear Mike talk about these topics in the interview that you posted. He talked about how often he finds it hard to help someone go into hypnosis if there are entities around, and even about that one individual who had entities holding shut the door. But on my second session, when we were finally able to be successful, I had that impression right before getting there to cast out entities from following me there into his office. It just served as a second witness to me that I wasn't as crazy as I thought I was when I was sitting at that stoplight and had that thought. Laugh out loud. Such perfect timing for me that you shared that. And I'm not sure when you shared it, but it was there when the Spirit wanted to lead me to it. So thank you for posting. I'm grateful for the work you are doing, Lindsay, and how you are letting your light shine. I know it's a major sacrifice of your time to keep doing so, and feel it's important to let you know specifics of how your efforts are impacting me personally and blessing my life. Keep having such an open and sharing heart. It's making a difference. Okay, that was a lot. But I love that experience that she shared, because it just goes to show that things aren't always successful the first time. But that doesn't mean that there's not a purpose in that for us. And it doesn't mean that we should give up. You see, the enemy wants us to give up. He wants us to quit. And he's going to use tools of anxiety and doubt and frustration and worry and fear to get us to pull out of the game, to get us to stop. But we know that when we push through those obstacles, when we push through those barriers, there are amazing blessings that await us on the other side. And that's what this year is all about. It's all about the breakthroughs, breaking through the barriers into something new, working our way up to that next level. And we do that through healing. We do that through healing our hearts. We do that through releasing and letting go. And I'm just so grateful that you guys send me these emails, because it reminds me of why it is I'm doing what I'm doing. It gives me that extra boost to keep making these videos and to keep putting in the time, because it does use up a lot of time. It is a lot of effort to make these videos, but it's so rewarding to know that they really are making a difference. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, shortly after this, someone commented on the diamond video, and so she pointed out, the diamond also represents the month of April. the month that we have come to know as the month of our Savior's birth. Again, that was just another awesome little witness. So separate from all of this, but around the time that all these emails and comments were coming in, I just had this feeling that I needed to finally get the diamond on my wedding ring fixed. If you know from several videos back, I had that experience where the diamond fell out of my ring, and I took that as a message from the Lord. I found the message in that, and then in an amazing way, He made that diamond appear, and I got it back. It was a miracle I shared in my miracles video. So here we are again talking about fasting and miracles, and I have this feeling, why are you still wearing a temporary ring? Why don't you finally get that diamond fixed? There is real power, not just symbolism in the diamond, but there is a real energetic power to the diamond. It has a profound influence over your life, and you really need to get that diamond fixed, and you need to start wearing that ring again. And so I've just had this overwhelming feeling I need to do that. So this Friday, I'm gonna go ahead and take it in and finally get that ring fixed, which is interesting because I connected reading through my journal back to that date to when I lost the diamond, and when I found it. Up until now, I've noticed a difference, and I couldn't quite place my finger on it. I've noticed things being a little bit more difficult and some things taking more time that used to not take me as much time. And finally one day it dawned on me that it might have to do with getting that wedding ring fixed, getting that diamond fixed. And once I start wearing that again like I was before for so many years, I'll see a shift happen. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, so then I received another message somebody sent in to me. I just wanted to read it to you real quick. I'm just keeping everyone anonymous. But she wrote, I wanted to share something back in April that I learned about the drought in Arizona, and I began to fast and pray for an end to the drought. Just a week or two before, she said just a week or two before just a week or two before you had shared in your video, I invited others to join me, complete strangers. I'm going to pause right there. So she's referencing the video I did where I talked about the United Airlines and the message that I got in those windows that kept popping out. How I was hearing in my mind, the windows of heaven will open, you will not have room enough to receive the blessings. And I was reminded of the drought in St. George and President Lorenzo Snow going down and delivering that message to the people, telling them to exercise their faith, pay their tithing, and that they will receive an end to that drought. Then at that time, I looked up in the news and noticed there was a drought going on in the Southwest in that same area. This was kind of a repeat of history. So I delivered that same message that President Snow had delivered so many years ago. And she had wrote in and said, you know what? I live in Arizona and the drought is a really big deal and we have started this fast. So she goes on to say, complete strangers started to join her. She says at parks or other random places, which is one of the hardest things in the world for me. At the beginning of May, I started calling this month Miracle May and continued to ask for miracles, which I won't share, but have received. I prayed all month long for more people to join me in this fast for an end to the severe drought. On the last day of May, I was feeling really sick with a cold and had been napping. When I woke up, I noticed an email notification from the church, specifically our stake president. Before I even opened the email, I started to weep with joy. I knew what would be in that email. The Area 70s asking stake leaders to fast for relief from the drought this coming Fast Sunday. It was the absolute perfect ending to the month of May. I haven't decided if I should share this in the group, but I wanted to share it with someone. My husband, being the sweetheart that he is, was so excited with me. So I just wanted to share that with you as a follow-up to that video and this whole topic of fasting, the 3-day fast, and so many of us who are fasting in the month of May for miracles. Okay, we're now nearing the end of this video message, and I have in my notes to talk about Mark Taylor. I've talked about him before and shared links to his videos before. There was a recent video that I came across that showed up in my feed, and I thought, okay, I think I'm supposed to watch this. It was really short. I have it down below if you want to check it out. The things that he mentioned in this video weren't new. I've heard similar interviews before, and I've shared those links as well. We've talked about this in past videos, but it was a prophecy where he had mentioned a shaking coming to the Catholic Church, and that this will be the last pope. This is according to what he's received. What was really interesting is right after I heard that video, I was sitting at my computer about to do something, and I went to get online, and all of a sudden it was already on a news site, and an article popped up that said, Pope Francis hints that he may not be around in 2019. And I was like, what? You see, because this video from Mark Taylor was published a few months ago, and the timing of all of this, that it happened to pop up in my feed, I watched it, and then right after I see this article about the Pope. So I click on the article, and I did a search and found other similar articles that quote him as saying, a good shepherd knows when to step down from his church and leave completely. So those were his words. And I got thinking about how in the prophecy Mark had talked about that something will be uncovered in an underground cave, in some kind of archaeological dig. They will discover something that will just shake the Catholic Church, and not just the Catholic Church, but it will shake so many other churches. And it will be some kind of new information. He doesn't allude to what that might be, but just something that's so profound that the church just crumbles. People are so torn up about it because it shakes everything they've ever believed about their doctrine, and it has to do with things that were hidden from them over the centuries, pure doctrines and knowledge that was taken out of the Bible that was hidden, and they find this, whether it's from scrolls or relics. He doesn't say, he's not sure, he just knows it will be found. As he got talking about this, the thought came into my mind about in the Catholic Church, how married men are excluded from the Roman Catholic priesthood. So if they want to partake and be a part of the Catholic priesthood, they cannot get married, they cannot have families. And we know that's the opposite of God's plan for us. He wants all of us to have families and partake in that marriage covenant so that we can be like him. And so this is a doctrine that I've always felt pulls people away from that, from God's plan, from having families and having that fullness of joy and happiness. I feel like this doctrine might have something to do with that it might open up some revelation about marriage and something along these lines. That's something pretty big that kind of separates the Catholic Church from all the other churches, just one of the things. Anyway, so I'd kind of been thinking about this all day, and then that night, right before I went to bed, I heard in my mind, pull up the news. And I thought, oh no, that's something I teach never to do. Never read the headlines right before you go to bed, or you're not gonna sleep well. And so I just kept hearing it, pull up the news, pull up the news. And all my family had already gone to bed. The house was quiet. So I get my phone, pull up the news. Breaking news right then and there was a volcano in Guatemala had just erupted and had already killed several people. So I'm thinking, okay, another volcano. What is it you're trying to tell me, Lord? The very next day, as I'm trying to get some work done, I have this feeling, go to YouTube, there's a video. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't have time to watch another video. So I think, okay, I'll multitask. I'll clean the kitchen while I listen to the video. Well, there it was, it popped up. It was an interview on the Jim Bakker show with Perry Stone, who I've talked about before. And they were interviewing Perry Stone, and he said in there, he mentioned scripture that you can find in Doctrine and Covenants section 45 verse 41, Acts chapter 2 verses 19 through 20, and Joel chapter 2 verses 30 through 31, where it talks about blood, smoke, and vapor, or pillars of smoke, as this being one of the final signs before the return of the Lord. And he said in this interview, he said, when you start hearing about volcanoes blowing their tops off, that will be these scriptures being fulfilled. So he had recorded this interview before the Guatemala volcano erupted. So you have the Hawaii volcano that's been ongoing, and then you have this Guatemala volcano, and there was the volcano in Japan that I had mentioned in a past video right around this time. He said that when he did a study for these scriptures and he looked up the Hebrew rabbinic interpretation of these scriptures of Acts and Joel, the interpretation for those words for blood, smoke, and vapor was volcanoes. So he did say, when the volcanoes start blowing and you start hearing about it in the news, know that it's time. So I just wanted to share that with you at the end of this message. And one final thing I wanted to slip in there was I happened to see another news article that caught my attention, and I'm not looking for these articles, they just find me. And it talked about San Francisco and the Bay Area. And the article said that 40% of Bay Area residents are planning to move out of the Bay Area and California completely within the next 3 years. It's this mass exodus that's starting to happen. And they cited the different reasons when they did the survey. A lot of it had to do with the economy. The cost of living is just too expensive. The travel is just ridiculous. Being on those freeways, coming to and going to work, you spend almost just as much time on the freeway stuck in traffic as you do at your job. And they just had so many other reasons for wanting to leave. And I was reminded, I'm going to put a link down below to this. I shared this, I think, last year, so this was many videos ago, but I talked about David Warwick, who was a member of the church, who before he converted, before he joined the church, he had all these visions about the last days, one of them specifically being about San Francisco, how he saw San Francisco completely flip upside down. He saw it being destroyed, and he goes into detail about that experience of what he saw in this presentation from preparingapeople.com. So I have that link down below if you want to listen to that. And I had heard that last year, but when I heard this news article, I was reminded of David Warwick's vision. And I know there's been a few others from my near-death experience books who have seen San Francisco and the Bay Area being destroyed. And I just kept hearing, it's time, we're getting there, this gathering is happening. That 40% of that area, those people are hearing the call, they're being gathered out. And that gathering is taking place, people are being pulled in, and Zion is starting to grow. I just kept hearing, it's time, these things are happening. We're in the midst of it right now. We are in the forest. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. I know it was a super long video today, but thanks so much for joining me. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Please feel free to share below. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.